Good afternoon, everyone. Can you just give me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me? Just want to make sure I'm loud and clear. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Let me start the recording. Right, and we are live. Okay. Everyone can just follow along with the stream. Okay, so it's been a while since I've seen you. Not that I've actually seen you, but you had school holidays, right? So I hope you still can remember what we did, seeing as it has been a while. So first up, we're going to start with the homework. So previously I gave you 2 questions. So the first one was I wanted you to create an application that stores numbers 1 to 9 in a list of lists. It should contain 3 lists. The first of these contain numbers 1 to 3, second 4 to 6, and then 7 to 9. I want your output to be like this. Is there anyone that wants to share their code with me? Did you get it working? Was it difficult? We did a similar example in the class last time. Is there anybody that wants to show me what they did? If you're confident enough. Or at least tell me, did you get it working? Did some of you struggle? It is fine if you struggled. Oh, I see Nabil is typing. Let's see. All right. Yes, okay, that is a good solution. You made an empty list, then you appended 1, 2, 3 to that list, then you 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9. Okay, very good. And then for each row in that list, you print the list, the specific one. All right, nice. And then for the second one, this one was a bit more unsuspecting. Okay, so I wanted you to create a list with values 1 to 5 and then reverse that list using code. Okay, so how did you do that? Is there anybody that want to tell me how they got that working? Did you get it to work? If you didn't get it to work, that is fine. I will show my solutions for both those questions in a second. I'm just curious to see what you did. Nabil, thank you for the answer. This is a good answer for the first one. All right, let's see. My pizza, yes. What did you do for number 2? You guys can just copy your answers from... Oh, a reverse function. Nice. And then it's quick and easy. It's only 1 line. How did the reverse function look? Can you write your code in the chat? How did you reverse? Okay, let's see. List2 dot reverse. All right. Let's see what my pizza did. How did she numbers dot reverse? All right. So fairly straightforward. Okay, so here's mine. My solution to number 1. So I made an empty list, and then I appended first the first list 1, 2, 3. Then I appended the second list, and then the third list, and then for each row in the list, I just print the row. For the other one, okay, so I made mine a bit more compact, but it doesn't matter. So you'll see there's 2 answers here. I'll explain now. The first one's commented out, then because there's another way to do it. So for the first one, I used the print function, and then in the print function, what did I print? Then to make it a bit more efficient or just shorter to write, then I did my list reverse inside the print brackets. The bottom one, can anybody read this? What does this mean? I think we already did some of these functions with the double colons. Does anybody know what is this last line here? What does that mean? The A list and then the square brackets, and then a double colon. Will I get the same result when I print line 4? Does anybody know, will it also reverse my list if I print? Oh, Christian, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Welcome, welcome. It's been a while. All right. So we'll get into this a bit more next week, but I want to explain my second line of code. So in my second line of code, this is a term called slicing. So we'll go a bit more into detail with that next time. So as the same with when you use a for range. I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago when we did for loops. We use the function in range, and then we say starting at, for example, 0, and then a colon, and then 1, or a comma, and then 1 means we will go from 0 to the first one. So this is very similar. So here the first the first colon, it's as good as we said none. So there's no parameter for the after the first colon. There's also a none, meaning there's also no parameter. And then the third one is the step. How do we want to increase it by 1, by 2? If this, for example, was a 2, then we would count 1. We'd skip 2 and we'd count 3. We'd skip 4 and we'd count 5. But now saying -1 means we start at the back and we count backward. So that's also another way. We will get into this next week. Next week we're going to start becoming a bit more advanced. Then we're going to start doing Olympiad questions as well, and we'll get into this slicing technique a bit more. This was just a fun another way to do it. If you're not exactly sure what's going on here now, don't worry about it. We will talk about that properly next week. All right. Today we'll be looking at tuples. Okay, so tuples is also a collection. So we did strings last time. We spoke about lists. Not strings. I'm sorry, lists and list of lists. So today we'll be looking at a tuple. So a tuple is also a collection. It's also a few elements stored in a single variable. Okay. The same as lists. So tuples are created in a similar way to lists, but with round brackets. So you'll see here in our solution, to create a list we used square brackets, but to create a tuple, we're now using round brackets. So exactly the same as last time. I want you to create a new Python file. So we're going to be creating this now together. So I'll be creating a new file. I already made mine, but just as a refresher, we're going to call it tuples. Right, and I'll be opening mine. So now I want you to first create our tuple. I hope you can see here. Okay, so it should contain 3 values: apple, banana, orange, just 3 fruits. Very easy. If we were making a list, it would look like this. I'll explain the differences between a tuple and a list now, and why you'd rather use one versus the other. Okay, so this is a list now, but if we change the brackets, it becomes a tuple. All right, so after you've created your tuple, we can print our tuple now. Okay, so there's 2 ways of printing our tuple, very similar to a list. First one, very easy. We can just use the print function, and then we can print this tuple. So if I run now, we get the entire tuple as a result. So with the round brackets, and then all 3 of our values. Okay, so how will I print this tuple? Every item separately. Does anybody want to tell me? We did this with lists. So how am I going to print this in 3 separate lines? If I want to print apple, and then on the next line banana, and on the next line orange. How am I going to do that? Is there anybody that wants to take a guess? Okay, let's see. You mean the code? Yes, yes, in the code. What am I going to program if I want to print the word apple? So look, what I did now is our result is apple, orange, and banana in a single line. How will I print all three of these statements on a separate line? Let's see. For row in this tuple, print row. Just a guess. That's a very good guess. Did he? Yes. For I in tuple. Yes. All right. So very similar to lists, what we did last time. You can access, so you can print your tuple in a similar way. I see my pizza is also typing. Even if other students did answer the question already, please go ahead. You can still type your answer. I still want to see everyone's way of doing it. Okay, so same as with lists, there are two ways. So the first one is we can print the entire tuple, the entire range, or we can access every item individually. So for this one, I just said for fruit, so we can name this anything. For I, for row, this doesn't matter. It is just for Python to keep track. So we give it the variable a name. So we call this, I called it fruit in this tuple. Then I just print fruit. Then I get the results apple, banana, orange. All right, easy enough. We can also store tuples in lists or vice versa. So the same as we did with the homework. Let's take a look at the homework of last time. So I'll be going back to this slide quickly. Okay, so so in here, instead of using the square brackets, we can use round brackets, which will turn it into a tuple. So then we can create a list, and in that list we can store tuples. So it can be a list of tuples, or also the other way around. We can make a tuple of lists. So that means instead of list num, we can make a tuple num with round brackets, and then we can append lists inside the tuple. Okay, so why do I want to use a tuple versus a list? Okay, so what is the difference? Yes, okay, that is a good question, and I will get to that now. First, I'm going to get into the similarities. Okay, so they are very much the same. In the beginning, I also struggled to understand why would I rather want to use a tuple versus a list, but the tuples are actually very efficient. They we'll get into that now. Tuples are quite exciting, actually. So we start with the similarities. So both tuples and lists, they store one or more object values, as we saw now. And it can be any object. They can store anything. They can store integers, strings, other objects, lists. Let's see. Could you have a list within a list? Yes, yes. We did that in the previous class. You can see the, let me see, where is it? The lecture material. We did repeating things, decision making. Where was this now? Lists and lists of lists. Lesson 7. You can look at this PowerPoint. There we talked about storing a list in a list. Okay, so why use tuples? I'll get there now. So both of them are sequence data types, which means you can store the data in a sequential fashion. So meaning in an order. Okay, so you can access number 1, number 2, number 3. Any type of data can be stored, and you can access it by their index. Okay, so how do we access the word banana in our tuple? So quickly look here. Okay, so here's the word banana. What if I just want to print banana? How will I do that? Change line 2 for me to just print the word banana. How can I do that? You're just going to have to change line 2. Let's see. How do you think we will print just the word banana? I want just this word. What will I change this line of code so I can print only this word? So I can ignore word 1 and word 3. What will I do? Is there anybody that wants to take a chance? Nobody? Are you shy? Nervous? It's the indexes we did last 2 lessons ago. So if I currently print this, then I get everything. Okay. So, yes, thank you, Ricardo. Yes, print this tuple and 1. then I just get the word banana, as you can see there. Then I access just the second variable. Okay. If I print number 0, I get apple. Remember, because we start counting at 0. So this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. Right. So now, the differences. Why would we want to use tuples versus lists? So each has their own place in the world. Sometimes lists are more appropriate, other times tuples are more appropriate. Okay, so lists are mutable. That means lists can change. I'll explain that more in a bit now. Lists can change. Tuples cannot change. Once you create a tuple, you cannot alter that tuple. You can add new values, but you cannot delete or change values. Okay. Lists, they consume more memory, where tuples are a lot less memory intensive. So that also makes them faster to use. I'll explain how that works now. Lists have more built-in methods. So for example, where you saw a method that you can use on a list was for the homework, where we used list.reverse. You'll see this one. We can make a list.reverse. So that is a list method. So lists have a lot more methods than tuples do. But tuples use less memory, so they have less operations you can do on them. Okay. Lists, however, can when you make changes to your list, you can unexpectedly get errors. Okay. Tuples are a lot more resistant to errors because you cannot change your data once it is created. So it is safer to use a tuple in many instances. And then you can create a tuple list with square brackets and a tuple with round brackets. All right, so let's go a bit more into detail. Mutability. Okay, so tuples cannot be changed. Specific elements in the tuple can't be reassigned once it is created. So you also cannot delete elements. Okay, so let's take a look here. Okay, so first let's turn this into a list. Or you know what? Let's make a new variable and call it this list, but with the exact same data. So now we're creating a list. Okay, so now we have the same list as the tuple. So this is what happens. So now we're going to say this list, and let's change the word banana. So let's go this list 1, because we want to change this. Equals, let's make it a new word. Let's say dragon fruit. Okay. And now we want to print this list. Let's print the entire list. Okay, so what happened now was we changed the data. So easy enough. So now we get the result of apple, dragon fruit, orange. So we changed banana. But what happens when we want to change this tuple, dragon fruit? I get an error. I cannot change the data. Once it is created, it is set. Then nothing can change what is already there. Okay, so that is why tuples are safer to use. For example, let's say you make a program storing like customer data. You have a client coming to your shop, and his ID number and what he usually buys is in there. And now you as a programmer, once the customer is created, you cannot change his ID number, because then once you create his ID number, then it is stored and it is set in that in your data. So that is why it is a bit safer, so someone can't come later and change customer details. That's just one example of the mutability. All right, so memory. This is also where tuples are a bit nicer. Tuples use less memory because they are unchangeable. So because you can't edit the data, they're easier to use for your computer. They're easier to run through and read. So when we work with three, like when we look at our code now, we only have 3 objects. So this won't really make a difference in a small data set, but once we have 1 million customers, and we use a tuple rather, then it will be much faster to go through all the data set, all the data in the tuple than it will be to go through the data on the list. So the bigger our list becomes, the easier it will go through, or the faster a tuple will be. So with only 3 values, we won't really notice a difference. Okay, so that is where tuples become, how can I say, more efficient to use. But both have their place in the world. So it is up to you as the programmer to decide what is best to use, a tuple or a list, what will be safer and what will be quickest. Okay, so tuples are very similar to lists. It's only those little differences. But now we get to the exciting part, dictionaries. Okay, so a dictionary, you can store 2 values in a single line. Okay, so dictionaries store values in a key value pair. So we can store data in pairs. Okay, so what does this mean? So we have a key, that is the name of a property, and we have a value, which is the content. So we can make this key anything we want. We can say, we have a nice example now where we're going to list all the rugby teams for all the cities in South Africa. So then we can make this the key. The key will be the city, and the value will be what team plays for that city. Okay, so if we want to store each rugby team that belongs to each city. Okay, so here's our here is our cities and our rugby teams playing for each city. Okay, so now I want to save these values for the cities. Okay, so but I don't want to just put them in a list, because then I can access, for example, I can make Pretoria number 1. Pretoria will be at index 0. Blue Bulls will be at index 1. Wellington will be at index 2. Bowland Cavaliers will be at index 3. So then they're not in a pair. So then someone can access them randomly. So they won't be related to each other. But now I want to relate Blue Bulls to Pretoria. I want them to be in the same value pair. So this is when we use dictionaries. Okay, so we create a dictionary using curly brackets. So this is much like a list or a tuple that we just did. So let's create a new file now. Dictionaries. I also already made mine. Okay, so we will say rugby teams. Okay, you can create this with me. Then we make curly brackets, as you see there. All right, now we're going to start. We want to save, let's start with Pretoria. We want to save Pretoria. Let's go back to our code. So now we make the property name Pretoria. Then you use a colon. And then we add the value. So Pretoria is the key. Then you use a colon. And then you get the value. So who plays for Pretoria? The Blue Bulls. Okay. Is a comma? Are there any rugby supporters here? Anybody that shouts for the Blue Bulls? Or do you have another team you enjoy that you prefer? We're all from Bloemfontein, right? So I think we have to be Cheetah supporters rather. I see Christian is typing. So we start with Pretoria and the Blue Bulls. Then we go to the next one, Bloemfontein. And oops, sorry, wrong one. And then Bloemfontein, we have the Free State Cheetahs. Cheetahs, yes, I thought so. Living in Bloemfontein, we are sort of obliged to shout for them. Right, so we have the Cheetahs from Bloemfontein. Let's do one more. Let me just put them. We use a comma and then we create a new one. So let's say, let's use Durban, the Sharks. So then we go Durban and Sharks. All right. So now we have a key value pair. So that means these data, each piece of data is stored in relation to another piece. So they, instead of now just being separate like as we have with a list. So with a list, all these pieces of data are separate from each other. Apple has nothing to do with banana. Banana has nothing to do with apple or orange. They're just sequential next to each other. But now we have value pairs. So now I want to print. I want to see the rugby team for Durban. How am I going to do that? Is there anybody that wants to take a guess? How would I... let's see, if I just print the rugby teams, then I get everything. Now I see all the teams for all the cities. But I just want to see the rugby team for Durban. How am I going to do that? So anybody that wants to take a chance? So it's very similar to an index that we just explained for tuples and that we did for lists. But how will we look at this a dictionaries index? I see someone's taking a chance. Yes, let's see. Ishmael. So here's the code. I'll give you a second. Try and figure this out on your own before I give you the answer. I will give you a hint. It is an index. So we use the square brackets for an index. But how will we use this index? Let's see. I'll give everybody a minute. You can, in your own PyCharm file, play around for a few seconds and see if you can print me Durban's rugby team. Yes, of course, if you think you know how, you can say. Okay, so Christian says print rugby teams Durban. Ishmael says print rugby teams Pretoria. Okay, well, or Durban, depending on which one we want to see. All right. So which one do you think is correct? Because there is a difference between Ishmael's and Christian's solution. Let's try the first one. Let's see if we print Pretoria. Okay. So now we get an error. Okay, why do we get this error? Because the variable Pretoria is not defined. So what we have to do is we have to put them in quotation marks. Yes, it is not in quotes. And then we get the answer, blue bull. So we can change this to Durban, as Christian also said, and Ricardo, yes. Okay, so when we put this in quotation marks and we run this, so you see now the index of Durban is linked to the value of sharks. So that is how we link these two values. Okay, now I'm going to give you a quick little exercise. Sorry, before we get to that, just on the slide. So when we print just the dictionary, then we get everything in the dictionary. We get all the values. So it is saved with a comma in between. Okay. Or we can access specific keys, as we just said, by using an index. But very important, put the index in quotation marks. This will unfortunately not work the same as with a list or a tuple, where we can just use an index value. Then we get a key error. Because a dictionary's index works a little differently. Okay. So now I'm going to give you a little assignment. Okay. So I want you to create a dictionary for a car. Okay. I want you to save the information. So let me quickly make a notepad. So I want you to have 3 pieces of information. Okay. I want you to save the make. It can be anything. So, for example, Ford, Hyundai, whatever. I want you to save the price, and I want you to save the year it was made. Okay, so here's your 3 variables that I want. I want you the make, the price, and the year. So you're going to create a tuple now with those 3 values. Right. I'll give you about 2 minutes to do it. And then Can we? Yeah, you can put anything in there. Any price, any year. It can be your own car. It can be a car from the future. Anything. Okay. Let's see. Let's give everyone about a minute to create a dictionary storing those 3 values. Right. Okay, I have about a minute left. She said you can make the make up, the price up, the year. You can use your imagination. It doesn't have to exist. I just want you to create a dictionary with these 3 values. Okay, is there anyone who's done that wants to share his code? His or her code. Right. Is everybody done? Is your dictionary created? Who wants to share their dictionary? Let's see if your dictionary works. Okay. I'm going to change these. I'm going to make this car dictionary. So I want someone's code to copy into my project. Who wants to give me their code? If you don't want to, I'll start from scratch. Okay, thank you, Christian. All right. So he said Ford and then the price. Okay. So let's copy this entire part here. Let's see how this works. Okay, so we have cars. Okay, this first part is correct. 700 won't work. Something went wrong with the quotes. Okay, so let me explain what happened here. Okay, so the first part is correct, yes. We used the curly bracket to create the dictionary. But now, let me help with this. Let me take out this piece of code and comment it out. So let's see. We can make only one object per dictionary. Okay. So we're first going to take the property. Ah, yes, Ricardo, I see. Make. Okay. So let me help what happened here. So first we go and we create make as the property. So this is a property, eigenskap, right? A characteristic. Okay. So the make, so what make is it? It is a Ford. All right. Then we use a comma. So then for the second one, we have the price. So what is the price? The price is 60,000 Rand. And a comma. And then we have the year. So what year is it? It is 1999. We can put this in quotation marks. Okay. So the only difference that I from my dictionary versus yours is you created a Ford as the property, and then you assign the value of 60,000 to the property Ford. All right. But so this is technically correct. Python will save the value 60,000 to the word Ford. But now you're trying to add, yes, okay, I'm glad. Now you try to add a third value, and then Python got confused. All right. So now we can create a set. Okay, so this is, let's say, car is Ford. let's create another one, and we call this cars Toyota. Okay, so this is how we create a second one now. So then we say make, create make, and then Toyota. What is my error? What is my error? Yeah. I'll see now. Okay, so we have make, Toyota. We have price of 700 Rand. What a cheap car. And it is a futuristic car from the year 8,927. Crazy. Right. Let's see. I seem to have an error here. What happens? Invalid syntax. What did I do incorrectly? Cars Toyota in line 7. Oh. That was silly. Alright. So now I have two dictionaries. I have a dictionary for my Ford car, and I have a dictionary for my Toyota car. Okay, and then the same as what we did previously, I can print, let's say I want to see the Toyota's price. And then we can say price, and I run this, and I get the result of 700 Rand, which is crazy cheap. Okay, cool. I'm glad you get it now. Right. So any questions about the dictionary so far? The dictionaries and the tuples. Are you all with me there? Is anything unclear about that so far? If you have any issues, then the Wednesday question and answer session will be up again from next week. The homework is going to be a bit more difficult, leading us into the Olympiad practice that we're going to start with next week. Okay, you're on board now. I'm glad. Welcome. Okay, awesome. So this is just the example we did. So we stole the brand, or the model, the year. Okay, so now we want to add a new value. Okay, so let's do this. So let's remove our Toyota. Now we want to add a new value to our Fords. Okay, so we have the make, we have the price, we have the year. But let's say we want to save the model. So we want to say it's a Mustang. Okay, so what we do now is we go cars Ford. Then, let's quickly see. We add a new value. So we will say model. All right. So this is how we create a new property. And then we assign a new value to that property. So let's say this is a Ford Mustang. Okay. And now let's print cars Ford. So let's see what happens. Okay. So you see now I have the make, I have the price, I have the year, and our newly added property, we have the model. Okay. We can also update our dictionary values. So let's update our price. Let's make this also as cheap as 700 Rand. So we create our dictionary with all our properties. So what's going to happen now is the value of 60,000 is going to be assigned to price. Okay. But the year in line 9, suddenly it's going to change the price to 700 Rand. So when we run this, we will get the price of 700 Rand. So 60,000 was overwritten and deleted. So this means dictionaries are mutable or immutable. Do you remember the word that we just did? So tuples and lists. So is a dictionary mutable or is it immutable? Think back to what we just did with the tuples. A dictionary is mutable. Yes, correct. That means we can change our dictionary. Mutable. Yes, correct. So we can change our dictionary values. Where with a tuple, we cannot change our values. Okay, homework. So I want you to create a dictionary with 5 random integers ranging from 1 to 50. Okay, so it's the same as what we did previously in one of our other homework assignments where you use the random function. and then write a program to multiply all the values in that dictionary. So you're going to save it as value 1 is and then your number, value 2 is and your number, value 3 is and your number, okay? And then I want you to print the result. I want you to print the number that is the result of the multiplication of your 5 random integers. All right. And then number 2, write a Python program that creates a dictionary from a string. Okay, this dictionary should contain every unique character in the string exactly once as a key. The values of the keys should be the number of times that that character occurs in the string. So what that means, look at my example here. I make a string, I call it string1, str1, and I say here is my string. Okay, so what happens now is my program creates a dictionary. So I take the letter H. There is one capital letter H. There are 2 letter E's. So it says H and then 1. So that means capital letter H is our key, and the number 1 is our value. Okay, so that means for H, there is 1. We have 1 H there. For E, we have 2. So you see there's an E and there's an E. There's no other E's. For the letter R, we have also 2 occurrences. So we have the R over here and the R over here. You'll see for the space, I also count spaces. For the space, we have 3. We have here, so that space, and that space. I, we have 2, that one. S, we have 2, and so on and so on. All right. I hope that makes sense. Is there any questions about the homework? Or any questions up until this point? Or is everybody fine? Are you ready? Will the homework be easy for you? Okay, I see. No, sir. All right. No questions. I hope you're not saying no, sir, to that the homework's going to be difficult. Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, then you guys must have an awesome weekend, and I will see you again next week on Friday, where I will give you the answers. And then next week, Friday, we're going to... Oh, it's going to be a nightmare. I don't think it's going to be that bad. If it is difficult, you have Wednesdays. Use the internet. Please Google. Try and find solutions online as well if you struggle. Try and do it on your own first, as I always say, but you become a better programmer through practice. Okay. It's nothing we haven't did before. Both these questions, it's everything we've done so far. I'm not giving you something you don't know. You're just going to have to find a combination of everything we've done. Okay. Just one question about the dictionaries. Where are they specifically used in programs? So for the example I used earlier, if you want to store values in combination. So let's say you're writing an app now where the person has to log in with an email and a password. Then you can store the person's email as the key, and then the password that they log in with as the value. So in real life, it's going to be a bit more complex. You're going to hide the password so not just anybody can see the password. You're going to create like a encryption, but that's like, don't worry about that. So for a very basic example, you can store the person's username with the person's password as a combination, and then when he logs in, you can check, is that password and username combo correct? If it's not correct, then you can say, nope, sorry, this account doesn't exist, or you got the wrong password. Okay, so that's an example for a dictionary. All right. Any other questions? All right. Awesome. Then I will see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, and good luck with the homework assignment. All right. Thank you, everybody, and bye-bye.